The Taliban causing sheer terror on the streets of Afghanistan. Despite promises of amnesty, Fox sources telling us the group is in some areas going door to door and hanging anyone who worked with America. As new video shows the militants firing on a group of protesters, and despite awful reports like that, the Pentagon spokesperson was unable to say last night whether or not the Taliban is an enemy.
Does the U.S. military consider the Taliban an enemy?
Our focus right now, the thing we're working against right now is time and space, and we want to get as many people out of Kabul as we can in as little amount of time as we can. There are no hostile interactions right now between American forces and the Taliban, and we want to keep it that way.
That comes as a new report sheds more light on the American equipment that is now in the hands of the Taliban. The terror group apparently getting everything from planes and guns to night vision goggles. Here's our very own Jennifer Griffin on that.
We are looking at images of the Taliban. They are holding American M16 rifles that we have basically resupplied the Taliban, which had 70,000 members a few weeks ago, and now they are flooded with $85 billion of American weaponry, and not just small arms. Small arms you can get anywhere, but it's the advanced communications, the equipment that you can use to move around the battlefield. That's something Russia and China would love to get their hands on. There are advanced weapons. You have warplanes that were left behind. You have so much. We have just flooded this country with weaponry.
Yen Dagan, I know you're keeping track.
Of the weaponry, I want to just point out something in terms of terror. Also, the terror that we need to worry about is al-Qaeda, again, having a sanctuary in Afghanistan because of the Taliban. That in the press conference, Biden was asked, he said, al-Qaeda is now gone in Afghanistan. Al-Qaeda is gone. And then a short while later, Jennifer Griffin pressed Kirby, the Defense Department spokesman, on that, and he reversed course and admitted that al-Qaeda has a presence in Afghanistan. Of course they do. The United Nations said that they do in their recent report. Actually, al-Qaeda has presences in 15 provinces. And I called, and this is, and Jennifer, she was just so incredible today, said this is the same thing. It's a repeat of what began in the early 90s in Afghanistan with a vacuum being created there. I called Andy McCarthy, who prosecuted the blind sheikh, and he just walked me through what was going to happen. He said, our defenses here in the United States are better, but fully expect in short order al-Qaeda to start hitting our embassies overseas. This is what they did. They declared war on the United States in '96. They hit embassies in Africa in '98. They hit the USS Cole in 2000. There were other plots against our embassies, and that's one of the reasons that our allies overseas are so upset. Angela Merkel called Biden out on it and blatantly said this is just a political move. So again, terror is coming to the United States again. The only question now is how soon? Well,
and the president said today that the focus is going to be on counterterrorism and using what we can in that region to, well, first of all, we've blown up partnerships, so that's going to be difficult. But there was a reporter who actually stood up this afternoon, and I can't remember which outlet, Richard, but he asked the president, he said, you said that's going to be our focus, but clearly we didn't monitor this situation accurately. So how do you tell the American people they should have confidence in what we're doing?
Well, I think that's right, Shannon. I'll be honest with you. I think that counterterrorism at this point is a day late and a dollar short. And the reason why I say that is because I think far before we even pulled out of Afghanistan, the moment that the Taliban started to make a resurgence in the country, right, which started in 2006, is when they started to regain territory. From that moment on, we should have expected al-Qaeda to begin to grow. And the moment that we saw former presidents start to negotiate with the Taliban was the moment we should have realized. And to be honest with you, I think this is where we as the American people, I think Greg said this earlier this week, is that our leaders in Washington, those that are appointed and elected, has been misleading us for a very long time, because all we've heard is, oh, we're doing great in Afghanistan. Oh, we need a surge. And when we get this surge, it's all going to work out and we're going to win. But the truth of the matter is, since 2006, not because of the failure of our troops have been doing a masterful job, but because of the failure
to do terrible, go into difficult situations. Now we put them in the worst possible situation.
And because of a failure of Washington leadership, both in Congress and at the Pentagon and at the White House, from numerous presidents, here we sit today with the most armed Taliban ever, right? With the most sophisticated weapons that were supposed to go to the Afghan military now in their hands. And counterterrorism, like I said at the beginning, is a day late and a dollar short.
Well, and now we're in this situation where we have to get the people out who are there. We've blown up these partnerships that would have helped us to get people out of there. I'm talking with some military folks who have now been able to get civilian and private charter planes that will come in and out of there. They say they cannot get the State Department to approve those flights for clearance to assist our military and to get people out. They say that the administration, by their account, is in disarray, Jesse. And this extra help that is standing there is just idled while people wait.
I'm not shocked by it. We've heard the reports, empty planes flying off the tarmac. We have a deal with the Taliban. No offensive violence against Americans in Afghanistan until we withdraw. Trump struck that deal. Biden is a party to that deal, but when he pulled out in such a sloppy way, we lost all leverage. So now the Taliban controls everything that we're doing there. And are we saying the Taliban is just letting everyone through? No. They're blackmailing people. They're beating Americans up. Maybe they're not shooting them dead on the streets, but it's not easy. So Joe Biden is terrified to say anything until he gets out that's going to raise hostilities. And he's terrified to do anything, because if he sends commandos to go extract stranded Americans in Kabul or the countryside and things go sideways and a U.S. soldier dies, or God forbid an American citizen dies, Joe Biden has blood on his hands, and that's going to domino, and the whole country is going to explode. So right now he's tiptoeing around. He's at the mercy of the Taliban. He's throwing around money like it's crazy. And we have a deadline coming up, and after 9/11, who knows what happens?
Well, so Greg, are we trying to play nice a bit with the Taliban publicly so that we can get our people out?
I have no idea. I think that today, Joe Biden said that terrorism has metastasized around the world. But just months ago, not even just months ago, it was what was the number one threat was domestic white supremacy terror groups. So now we know that he was lying about that, especially today. Reuters reports that the FBI found scant evidence that the riot at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th was the result of an organized plot. We all knew that. We saw that with our eyes. But we had to play along with this stupid fantasy delusion of white supremacist phantoms. And so what happened was you had General Milley, wanted to get at the root of white rage, which does not sound like a general consumed by winning wars, that was his priority. So what we were told by our military head and the president of the United States is that Americans were a bigger threat than Islamic terror. They used those words. They said it was bigger than Al-Qaeda, bigger than ISIS, and that was recently. So I see a definite link between the internal loathing of our country by our leaders and this subsequent lack of forethought in this withdrawal. If you are preoccupied with these phantoms of the systemic white supremacy of which there is no proof, that has to take up time and effort, replacing intelligent thought about war and withdrawal. I'm not saying you shouldn't be concerned about these issues, but the military should have been focused. They should have had their eye on the ball. The military heads, not the troops. The leaders should have their eye on the ball, but they were too busy playing woke. And now we're
I don't think those things are mutually exclusive. I think you can be fighting against white supremacy and also be fighting against Islamic terrorism at the same time.
That's like saying cops can be social workers, right?
But that's what's happening in the status quo.
Unfortunately.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.